The casket is too small. That's all I can think as they lower Lucas into the ground. His favorite stuffed lion clutched against my chest, its worn fur damp with tears I can no longer feel falling. My fingers trace the stitched smile on the toy's face, a smile my son will never see again. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, Pastor Williams's voice carries across the empty cemetery, his words meant for a grieving family. But there is no family here, just me, and my son in a box that's far too small. I glance at the row of empty chairs beside me, each with a name card. Martin and Evelyn Reynolds, Veronica Reynolds, Marissa Talbot, all the people who should be here, who promised they would be here. Pastor Williams catches my eye, his expression shifting from sympathy to something deeper pity. Perhaps as he looks at those empty seats, he clears his throat and continues, but I barely hear him. The autumn wind whips around us, scattering orange and red leaves across the fresh dirt piled high beside the grave. 8 years wasn't enough, not nearly enough. My phone vibrates in my pocket. I should ignore it. I should focus on these final moments with my son. But my hand moves of its own accord, fingers fumbling for the device like it's a lifeline in this sea of grief. The screen illuminates with Instagram notifications. Veronica Reynolds posted for the first time in a while. I shouldn't look. I know I shouldn't. But I tap anyway, and my sister's face fills the screen. Veronica, radiant in a silver cocktail dress, diamond earrings catching the light as she holds up her left hand. A massive engagement ring sparkles on her finger. The geotag reads, Crescent Bay Hotel, posted 20 minutes ago. I swipe to the next photo. My parents, Martin and Evelyn, dressed in their finest. Mom in her pearl necklace, the one she wore to my wedding. Dad in his charcoal suit, arm around Veronica, champagne flute, raised high. Their smiles wide and genuine in a way I haven't seen directed at me in years. Congratulations to our beautiful daughter. We couldn't be prouder. Future Mrs. Harrington. Another swipe. Marissa, my friend since college, laughing beside Veronica, their heads together in a moment of shared joy. The timestamp tells me everything I need to know. While I bury my son, they celebrate. Mrs. Reynolds? I look up, suddenly aware that Pastor Williams has stopped speaking. The cemetery workers stand awkwardly by their equipment, waiting for a signal from me. We've concluded the service, he says gently. Would you like a moment alone before? He trails off, glancing at the casket. Yes, I whisper. Please. The memory crashes over me without warning. Lucas, pale against the hospital sheets, tubes running from his thin arms, his eyes, my eyes bright with fever. Mom? His voice so small, yet somehow filling the sterile room. Are Grandma and Grandpa coming to see me today? The hope in his voice had cut through me like glass. I remember smoothing his damp hair from his forehead, forcing a smile. They're very busy, sweetie. But they send their love. They're always busy, he'd murmured, fingers plucking at the hospital blanket. Is it because I'm sick? Are they scared of catching it? No, baby. I'd taken his hand, so small in mine. Your blood disorder isn't contagious. Remember what Dr. Michaels said? Then why don't they come? I hadn't had an answer. Not one I could give an 8-year-old who still believed in the inherent goodness of family. 18 months. That's how long we fought this battle. 18 months of hospital rooms and chemotherapy and bone marrow transplants that ultimately failed. 18 months of, "You're being dramatic again, Camille," whenever I begged for help. 18 months of Lucas asking for grandparents who never showed. And now, he'll never ask again. The cemetery worker approaches with a single white rose, offering it to me with downcast eyes. The final flower. The last goodbye. Thank you, I say, taking it from him. As I move to place it on the small casket, my phone vibrates again. Not Instagram this time, but a text. My mother's name appears on the screen, and for one wild moment, hope flares in my chest. Maybe they realized their mistake. Maybe they're on their way. I open the message. Camille, we need to talk. Bring the trust documents tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp. The trust documents, Nathaniel's provision for Lucas's college fund. The $860,000 that would have sent our son to any university he chose. The money that, by the terms of the trust, now passes to me as the beneficiary. They didn't come to their grandson's funeral, but they want his money. The rose slips from my fingers, landing softly atop the polished wood. My legs tremble as understanding crashes over me what they're really after. what they've always been after. I kneel beside the casket, pressing my palm against the cool surface. The closest I'll ever come to touching my son again. I won't let them take what's yours, I whisper. I promise. Above me, clouds gather, dark and heavy with unshed rain. In the distance, car doors slam as the engagement party continues without missing a beat, and I remain alone, making promises to a boy who will never hear them, clutching a stuffed lion that will never again be hugged by the arms of my child. The next day, the trust papers feel heavy in my hands as I pull into my parents' driveway. Nathaniel's signature stares up at me from the corner of the document, the same elegant script that once signed love letters, then divorce papers, and finally the $860,000 trust for Lucas. This ensures our son's future. He had said when we signed it 3 years ago, his voice softening. Or yours, if the unthinkable happens. The unthinkable. Now my reality. I park beside Veronica's gleaming white Audi. So she's already here. Of course she island. Mom's text burns in my memory. Bring the trust documents. Not, how are you holding up? Not, we're sorry we missed the funeral. Just bring the trust documents. 10 a.m. sharp. My savings account shows $842.37. 18 months of full-time caregiving decimated my marketing career and every penny I'd saved. The medical bills still arrive daily, each one a paper reminder that Lucas fought hard to stay alive. The front door opens before I reach it. Mom stands there in pressed beige slacks and a coral blouse, her silver hair freshly styled. You're late. She checks her watch. It's 10:17. I buried my son yesterday. My voice sounds hollow even to my own ears. She steps aside, lips pressed into a thin line. We have a lot to discuss. The house smells of lemon furniture polish and cinnamon apple potpourri, everything in its proper place. I scan the walls as I follow her down the hallway. Family photos line the staircase: Veronica's graduation, my parents' anniversary cruise, Dad receiving a community service award. Not a single photo of Lucas. Dad sits at the head of the dining table, reading glasses perched on his nose, a stack of papers spread before him. Veronica sits to his right, phone in hand, diamond engagement ring catching the light when she moves. Finally, Dad says without looking up, coffee's cold now. Veronica glances up, her expression a practiced blend of concern and pity. How are you holding up, sis? Before I can answer, Mom gestures to an empty chair. Sit, Camille. I remain standing. What is this about? Dad removes his glasses. We're concerned about your state of mind, after everything that's happened. My state of mind, I repeat slowly. Veronica leans forward. We know how hard these last months have been, and now with Lucas, she pauses, not saying the word dead, as if it might summon bad luck. We want to help. By demanding I bring Nathaniel's trust papers? I clutch the folder tighter. Dad clears his throat. Losing a child changes people, makes them unstable. And you would know this how? The question slips out, sharper than I intended. Mom touches my arm. Sweetie, we just want what's best for you. What's best for me, I echo. Yesterday would have been best for me, at the cemetery. An uncomfortable silence falls. Veronica checks her watch. We had a prior commitment, Mom says finally. Veronica's engagement. Party, I finish. I saw the Instagram posts, while they were lowering my son into the ground. Dad pounds his palm on the table. That's enough guilt-inducing dramatics. This is exactly why we're concerned. For the first time, I notice a document labeled Petition for Emergency Guardianship, peeking from beneath Dad's elbow. What is that? I point. Veronica jumps in before Dad can answer. We've spoken with a financial advisor and an attorney. She offers what she probably thinks is a reassuring smile. The truth is, Camille, you're in no position to handle this kind of money right now. Not with your history of impulsive decisions, Mom adds. What history? I demand. Quitting your job without a backup plan, Dad says. To care for my dying child, I counter. Mom sighs. Always so defensive. After all we've done for you and Lucas over the years. A bitter laugh escapes me. Done for us? You visited Lucas exactly twice during 18 months of treatment. You sent a gift card for Christmas instead of showing up. He asked for you every holiday. We're not here to rehash the past, Dad says. Veronica leans forward. I have financial experience. As trustee, I could. Trustee? I stare at her. You want control of Lucas's money? It's not Lucas's money anymore, Dad says bluntly. And clearly, you're not thinking straight. Look at you, you're shaking. My hands tremble, but my voice holds steady. Lucas would still be here if you'd helped us. Mom gasps. That's cruel. Cruel? You know what's cruel? Watching your child suffer alone because his grandparents were too busy, explaining to an 8-year-old why his family never visits. Standing alone at his grave while you drink champagne. Veronica's mask finally slips. You always make everything about you, Camille. Even your son's death. The room goes silent, cold. My son has a name, I say, each word precise. His name is Lucas. I gather the trust documents to my chest, backing toward the door. Dad stands, his chair scraping against the hardwood. Don't walk out, Camille. You need our help whether you know it or not. I turn, moving faster now. Mom calls after me, her voice rising. Be reasonable. You've always been the difficult one. The front door is 3 steps away. 2, 1. Camille! Dad's voice booms. If you leave now, don't expect us to be there when you inevitably crash. I step outside, sunlight blinding after the dim house. The trust papers press against my heart like a shield as I walk to my car, their voices fading behind me. They never expected me to fight. They never understood what a mother protecting her child's legacy is capable of. Even when that child is gone. 3 days after the confrontation, the flyer crinkled in my hand. Community support group for unstable parents, it announces in cheerful blue letters. Someone has circled it and scrawled my name in the margin. 3 identical copies were stuffed in my mailbox this morning. I know Veronica's handwriting anywhere. I crumple it into a ball, toss it toward the kitchen trash, and miss. Story of my life lately. The whispers started 3 days after I walked out of my parents' house, clutching Lucas's trust documents. First came the concerned calls from distant acquaintances. Camille, we're worried about you. Then the sympathetic head tilts from grocery store cashiers. How are you really doing, honey? The final straw. Pastor Williams pulling me aside after I tried returning to church. People are concerned about your behavior since the funeral. I slump onto Lucas's bed, surrounded by the medical bills I've been organizing for weeks. Insurance covered much of his treatment, but the remaining statements still form a mountain on his dinosaur comforter. 18 months of fighting for my son's life has left my savings account gasping its last breath. My phone pings with an email notification. Notice of temporary financial freeze. The words swim before my eyes as I scan the document. Emergency petition. Mental health concerns. Guardianship hearing. Asset protection. Pending evaluation. My lungs seize. They've actually done it. My parents have filed for emergency guardianship, claiming grief has rendered me unstable and incapable of managing Lucas's trust fund. The court has frozen my accounts until the hearing. A knock at the front door startles me. Wiping my eyes, I peek through the curtains. A courier stands on my porch, manila envelope in hand. Camille Reynolds? He asks when I crack the door. Delivery from Whitestone Legal, the law firm my parents have used for 20 years. I sign for the package with trembling fingers, then tear it open once he leaves. Inside lies what can only be described as a character assassination in legal format. Photos of me crying in the grocery store parking lot. Statements from concerned neighbors about raised voices when Lucas was alive. A letter from a doctor I visited once at my mother's suggestion diagnosing adjustment disorder with anxiety. But what breaks me is the exhibit labeled electronic communications. Screenshots of text messages between me and my mother, edited to remove context, making normal frustrations sound unhinged. Messages I sent during Lucas's worst nights in the hospital, when I begged for their help, now twisted into evidence of instability. They're writing me out of existence, replacing me with a disturbed woman who can't be trusted with her son's legacy. I slide down against Lucas's bedroom wall, clutching his favorite blanket to my chest. Its rocket ship pattern faded from countless washings during hospital stays. I can't fight them all. I whisper to the empty room. The tears come hard and fast, soaking into the worn fabric. They have money, lawyers, and they're turning everyone against me. The doorbell rings again. I ignore it. Another ring follows, then persistent knocking. Camille? It's Hannah. I've got food. Hannah Davis lives 3 houses down. She used to babysit Lucas when I needed grocery runs during his better days. We weren't close, but Lucas adored her teenage son who taught him to skateboard during remission. My hair is a mess, eyes swollen, but hunger drives me to answer. Hannah stands on my porch holding a ceramic dish, concern etching her features. Lasagna, she says, pushing it into my hands before I can protest. You need to eat something that isn't from a drive-thru. I lead her into the kitchen, movements mechanical as I set the dish down. Thank you, but I'm not. I heard what they're saying about you, Hannah interrupts, her voice soft but firm. At the salon, at Billy's market. It's not right, what they're doing. My throat tightens. You don't have to get involved. I already am involved. Hannah reaches into her purse, pulls out her phone. I have videos. Of Lucas. From last summer. She taps her screen and suddenly my son's laughter fills the kitchen. Lucas, thin but smiling, showing off tricks on his skateboard. My voice calls encouragement from behind the camera. Another video follows Lucas and me making cookies. Flour dusting our noses. His giggles when I pretended the spoon was an airplane. These don't look like the actions of an unstable mother to me. Hannah says quietly. I have dozens more. Lucas was loved. He was happy, even through the worst of it. The videos continue, each one a dagger of grief, and yet somehow a balm. Proof that we existed together, that I was the mother he deserved. My husband Brian is a paralegal. Hannah continues. He says what they're doing, filing for emergency guardianship without proper evidence, it's procedurally aggressive. Courts don't like that approach without genuine emergency circumstances. I shake my head. They have money for expensive lawyers. I have medical bills. My brother Robert is a trust litigation attorney. I look up, finding unexpected determination in Hannah's eyes. He helped my aunt when her stepchildren tried something similar. He doesn't work at some fancy firm with marble floors, but he knows trust law inside and out. For the first time in days, something unfurls in my chest. Not quite hope I'm too battered for that, but perhaps it's distant cousin. I couldn't afford. Initial consultation is free, Hannah says. After that, well, let's see what he says. But Camille? She reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. You're not alone in this fight. Not anymore. I manage a weak nod, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. The next afternoon, I sit across from Robert Davis in his modest office. No mahogany desk or leather chairs, just practical furniture and walls lined with law books. Family photos show him with Hannah and her family at various gatherings. They're building a case based on speculation and emotional manipulation, Robert says, spreading the documents across his desk. We need to respond with facts and documentation. How? I ask. It's my word against theirs, and they've already convinced half the town I'm losing my mind. Document everything, Robert says firmly. Every text, every email, every interaction. Build your own support network, people who actually saw you with Lucas during his illness. And we need to contact your ex-husband's parents. The Carters? I haven't spoken to Nathaniel's parents since the funeral. They live 3 states away. Yes, as the creators of the trust, their testimony about intentions would carry significant weight. My hands shake slightly as I dial their number, put it on speaker. Margaret Carter's warm voice answers. I explain the situation in halting sentences. The silence that follows is brief but heavy. They did what? Her normally gentle tone turns sharp. They didn't even come to Lucas's funeral, and now they're after his money? We'll email sworn statements immediately, George Carter adds, his voice joining his wife's on the line. Nathaniel established that trust specifically for Lucas's education, or for you if the worst happened. Those were his explicit instructions. Something like strength begins trickling back into my bones. Robert nods approvingly as he takes notes. That evening, alone in my house, I begin a methodical inventory of evidence. Text messages saved, emails printed, medical records showing my constant presence during Lucas's treatments, financial statements demonstrating how I liquidated my retirement account to cover costs insurance wouldn't. I dig through Lucas's belongings, seeking comfort in the ritual, when my fingers brush against his tablet tucked under his pillow. On impulse, I power it on. The battery still holds charge. Lucas used it for games during hospital stays, for video calls with his few friends when he felt well enough. I tap through folders, smiling at his game progress, at the photos he saved. A notification appears. Cloud backup complete. I frown, tapping it. Lucas had set the tablet to automatically back up to my cloud account. The most recent backup was from 3 months ago, when my family came for dinner. The last time they visited before Lucas took his final turn for the worse. I scan the backup details and notice an audio file. Large, nearly an hour long. I don't remember Lucas recording anything that day. With trembling fingers, I press play. The tablet must have been in Lucas's room, recording accidentally. At first there's nothing but ambient noise, but then I hear my sister's voice, distant but clear. How much is in that trust fund exactly? My father's response? Lucas's? Around $860,000. And it all goes to Camille if he doesn't make it? Veronica asks, her tone calculating. That's what the documents say, my mother replies. Such a waste on her. You know how she is with money. Once Lucas is gone, Veronica says, lowering her voice, we just need to convince Camille she can't handle the money. She's always been emotionally fragile. My mother's laugh, cold and dismissive. She's always been the weak one. She'll sign whatever we put in front of her, if we push the right buttons. I could use that money for my wedding, Veronica continues, and to finally start that business with Jason. Camille doesn't need it, she'll just blow through it on ridiculous grief therapy or something. We'll help you manage it properly, my father agrees. I sit frozen, the tablet clutched in my hands, as they continue discussing what they'd do with Camille's money once Lucas was gone. Planning their strategy while my son fought for his life in the next room. I stand slowly, a strange calm settling over me. The grief remains, a constant companion, but something else rises alongside it. Determination. Clarity. This ends now, I whisper to Lucas's empty room, my voice stronger than it's been in months. I save the recording to multiple locations, then call Robert. No more tears. No more doubts. They picked the wrong mother to destroy. The manila folder slaps against Robert's desk as he outlines our timeline of events 2 days later. His silver-rimmed glasses catch the afternoon light as he studies each document with the precision of a surgeon. Your family's pattern is textbook, he says, marking dates on his legal pad. They were conspicuously absent during Lucas's entire treatment regimen, yet mysteriously present the moment financial assets became available. I grip the armrests of my chair, steadying myself. They never even sent a card when he was in isolation. Robert nods, eyes never leaving the paper. We'll establish that clearly. The judge needs to see the contrast between your dedication and their absence. Hannah arrives with a thick folder of her own. Inside are statements from 3 of Lucas's doctors, detailing my unwavering presence during treatments. Doctor. Michael's letter is particularly pointed. In 15 years of pediatric oncology, I have rarely witnessed such devoted caregiving as Miss Reynolds provided her son. They're painting me as unstable, I say, voice stronger than I expected. Which is why I contacted your former colleagues. Robert slides another folder across his desk. 6 character testimonials from Westridge Marketing, including your former boss, all vouching for your competence and stability. The phone rings, and Robert answers on speaker. The warm, gentle voice of Eleanor Carter Nathaniel's mother fills the room. We've had the trust paperwork notarized, she says. The statement confirms Nathaniel's explicit intention that Lucas's fund transfer to Camille in the event of... Her voice catches. In this circumstance... Thank you, Eleanor, I manage. After the call ends, Robert leans forward. We're building a fortress of truth around you, Camille. Brick by brick. The next morning, I step into Layton's Coffee on Main Street for the first time since Lucas passed. The familiar bell jingles above the door, and conversation momentarily halts. Frank, the owner, approaches with arms outstretched. There she is. He announces loud enough for everyone to hear. The woman who read Goodnight Moon so many times during her son's treatments that my daughter memorized it from across the shop. Warmth floods my cheeks as several patrons nod in recognition. My Emily still asks about Lucas, he continues, squeezing my shoulder. That boy had the biggest heart just like his mama. Later, scrolling through social media, I notice Hannah has posted photos of Lucas from last summer's block party. His thin frame wrapped in a superhero cape, beaming despite the bruises from his most recent treatment. Remembering my brave neighbor Lucas today, her caption reads, and his equally brave mother who never left his side for 18 months of treatment. The comment section fills with neighborhood families sharing their own memories. Mrs. Donovan from 2 streets over writes, always wondered why his grandparents were never at any of his school events. Now it makes sense. The narrative is shifting, one small truth at a time. 3 days later, the family's counterattack arrives via certified mail. An emergency petition claiming my dangerous behavior around children necessitates immediate intervention. Attached is a sworn statement from Marissa describing troubling outbursts she allegedly witnessed. This is desperation. Robert says when I forward him the documents. They're escalating because they're losing ground. That evening, the doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I see Veronica flanked by our parents and 2 strangers with professional cameras. Camille? Veronica calls through the door. We're worried about you. We just want to talk. I text Robert immediately. They're here with cameras. Staged intervention. His response is immediate. Do not open the door. Record audio on your phone. I press record and slide the phone near the door crack. She's probably drinking again, my mother says, voice deliberately loud. Ever since Lucas. We just want to help her, my father adds with practiced concern, before she hurts herself or someone else. The staged conversation continues for several minutes before they finally leave, having captured exactly what they came for, footage of me refusing help. The next morning brings a call from Child Protective Services, an anonymous tip about a mentally unstable woman with access to neighbor children. Access. The caseworker, Miss Thornton, quickly recognizes the situation for what island. This happens more than you'd think, she says kindly after our brief interview. Family disputes using CPS as a weapon. This case is being dismissed immediately. When I relay this to Robert, he nods grimly. Every false claim strengthens our position. They're building our case for us. In his office, we meticulously document each fabrication. The Carters have hired a private investigator who photographs my parents celebrating at exclusive restaurants while claiming financial hardship in their petition. The final piece, Robert says, sliding a thick medical binder across the desk. Lucas's complete hospital records, every admission, every treatment, every visitor log. He taps a highlighted section. These pages show your constant presence, and these, he flips to another tab, show your family's complete absence. I trace Lucas's name on the cover, remembering the countless hours in those sterile rooms, how I memorized every beep and flicker of his monitors. They think I'll break, I say, more to myself than to Robert. That I'll give in just to make this all stop. Robert closes the binder gently. That's exactly what they're counting on. But they've miscalculated. How so? His expression softens. They've forgotten what every parent knows. There's nothing more dangerous than someone protecting their child's legacy. For the first time since the funeral, I feel something beyond grief. Something with teeth and purpose. Something that won't back down. They abandoned my son in life and in death. They will not take what remains of his future. I am done being the family doormat. I am done being silenced. I am my son's last defender. And I am ready for war. On the confrontation day, I smooth my navy skirt with damp palms as I step through the courthouse doors. The building towers over me, all stone and authority, but today, I refuse to shrink. Lucas deserves better. Robert walks beside me, his briefcase swinging with each confident stride. Remember, let them make their case first. We want them on record with everything. We push through the heavy oak doors of courtroom C. My family sits in a neat row on the left. Veronica, in a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my rent. My mother in her pearls. My father checking his watch. Their attorney, a silver-haired man with tortoiseshell glasses, stands arranging documents. The Carter family occupies the row behind me, Nathaniel's parents, their presence a silent vote of confidence. Hannah slips in minutes later, squeezing my hand as she passes. All rise for the Honorable Judge Eleanor Masterson. A woman with cropped gray hair and piercing eyes takes the bench. Guardianship petition for Camille Reynolds, case number 47329. Let's begin. My family's attorney approaches. Your Honor, we come before you today with grave concerns about Mrs. Reynolds' capacity to manage substantial assets following the tragic loss of her son. The words "her son" in his mouth, not Lucas, not my beautiful boy with his gap-toothed smile and dinosaur obsession, sends a surge of heat up my spine. Mrs. Reynolds has exhibited concerning behavior, he continues, producing a folder. Erratic spending, emotional outbursts, isolation from family who only wish to support her. My mother nods solemnly. My father frowns with practiced concern. We have documentation from family friend Marissa Talbot attesting to Mrs. Reynolds' concerning state. He submits an affidavit, and text messages showing disturbing thought patterns. Judge Masterson reviews the documents. Her expression gives nothing away, but she glances at me once, her eyes lingering. The family proposes a temporary guardianship during this period of grief, with her sister Veronica managing financial decisions until Mrs. Reynolds has properly healed. Veronica straightens, adjusting her enormous engagement ring. The diamond catches light, sending prisms dancing across the courtroom wall. When their attorney finishes, Robert rises. The room feels suddenly smaller, as if he's pulled all the oxygen toward him. Your Honor, may I call Dr. James Whitfield to the stand? Lucas's oncologist takes the stand, his kind face serious beneath his salt and pepper hair. Dr. Whitfield, how would you characterize Mrs. Reynolds' behavior during her son's illness? In 18 years of pediatric oncology, I've rarely seen such dedication. Mrs. Reynolds learned complex medical protocols, tracked every medication, and made informed decisions under unimaginable pressure. He clears his throat, while other family members were notably absent. The judge's eyebrow lifts slightly. Notably absent? Robert prompts. Mrs. Reynolds was alone at every appointment. When I asked about family support, she would change the subject. My mother shifts uncomfortably. Father tugs at his collar. Hannah testifies next, describing nights she sat with me in the hospital when no one else would. The Carters follow, explaining Nathaniel's explicit wishes for the trust. Your Honor, Robert says when our witnesses finish, we have one final piece of evidence. With your permission, I'd like to play an audio recording. My family's attorney objects immediately. We've had no prior notice of this evidence. It was only discovered recently, Robert counters smoothly, on the deceased child's tablet. The judge considers. I'll allow it. Robert connects Lucas's tablet to the courtroom speakers. For a moment, there's only kitchen noise clattering dishes, a chair scraping floor. Then my mother's voice cuts through. Once Lucas is gone, we just need to convince Camille she can't handle the money. The courtroom freezes. Veronica speaks next on the recording. She's been a mess since the diagnosis. No judge would argue with us taking control. She's always been the weak one, my mother adds. She'll sign whatever we put in front of her. My father's voice. $860,000 could set Veronica up nicely with that Harrington boy. Old money families expect substantial dowries these days. My family sits immobilized. Mother's face has drained of color. Father stares at his polished shoes. Veronica's lips press into a bloodless line. Judge Masterson's expression hardens with each word. When the recording ends, the silence feels physical, pressing against my skin. Your Honor, I object this recording was made without consent, their attorney stammers. By an 8-year-old child who accidentally captured his family planning to steal his college fund while he was dying, Robert counters, voice vibrating with controlled anger. Judge Masterson removes her glasses. I've heard enough. Petition for guardianship is not only denied, but I'm issuing a restraining order preventing the petitioners from approaching Mrs. Reynolds or attempting to access the trust funds. She looks directly at my family, and I'm ordering petitioners to pay all legal fees associated with this frivolous and disturbing action. She turns to me, her voice gentler. Mrs. Reynolds, the court finds you entirely competent. You have my deepest condolences for your loss. The gavel strikes with finality. Outside, sunshine bathes the courthouse steps. I breathe deeply for what feels like the first time in months. Footsteps approach from behind. My mother, eyes red-rimmed but dry. Camille, please understand. Don't. The word comes out stronger than I expected. Veronica steps forward, her perfect facade cracking. We just wanted what's best for you. What's best for me? My voice doesn't shake anymore. You abandoned me at my son's grave. You will never touch his legacy. We're still family, my father attempts. No. I meet his gaze directly. Family shows up. Lucas knew that, even at 8 years old. I turn away, toward Hannah and the Carters, waiting by Robert's car. Behind me, Veronica calls my name, her voice breaking. My mother begins to sob. I don't look back. I walk down the steps, each one taking me further from their voices, closer to people who showed up when it mattered. Lucas's stuffed lion waits in my purse, its worn smile my compass pointing toward whatever comes next. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who stands beside your child's hospital bed at 3 a.m. It's who remembers his favorite ice cream flavor. It's who shows up when the world is falling apart. It's who helps you rebuild when the dust settles. 6 months later, I planted the last sunflower seedling in the fresh soil of my garden, patting the earth around its fragile stem. Lucas loved sunflowers. "They follow the sun, Mom," he once told me, his face bright with wonder. "Even on cloudy days, they know where it island." The modest cottage near Lakewood Park isn't much, just 2 bedrooms and a small yard, but it's mine. Ours, in a way. The blue hydrangeas line the walkway, their clusters unfurling in the spring warmth. Lucas would have approved. "Those look beautiful." Hannah calls from the porch steps, balancing a casserole dish in one hand and her toddler's hand in the other. "Need help with the last box?" "Almost finished," I answer, wiping soil from my palms onto my jeans. Inside, the living room walls are the color of summer sky. A small corner table holds framed photos of Lucas, laughing at the beach, blowing out birthday candles, holding up his science fair ribbon. His stuffed lion sits among them, guardian of memories. "Jamie's asking if you're coming to dinner Friday," Hannah says, placing the casserole on the kitchen counter. "Brian's grilling those steaks you like." For months after the court hearing, I'd declined their invitations. The thought of joining another family's happiness felt like betrayal, but Hannah never stopped asking. "I'll be there, I promise," meaning it this time. Later, as dusk settles over the neighborhood, I curl up on the window seat. Sleep has been my enemy since Lucas died, but tonight feels different. The weight on my chest hasn't disappeared, but it's shifted somehow. I close my eyes and drift into the first peaceful sleep I've had in months. Tuesday evening finds me seated at the Carters' dining table, Nathaniel's parents treating me with the warmth my own never did. Eleanor Carter passes me a bowl of roasted vegetables, her hand briefly squeezing mine. Lucas would have been proud of the scholarship, William says, his voice gentle. 3 families already benefiting. The scholarship was their idea, using a portion of the trust to help children with rare blood disorders. My in-laws, who never stopped being family, even after Nathaniel and I divorced. The foundation asked if I'd consider more hours. I tell them. They need someone who understands both the administrative side and what families are going through. Eleanor smiles. "You've always been good at both." At Thursday's grief support group, I find myself speaking to a young father whose daughter died last month. His hands shake as he clutches his coffee cup. "Does it ever stop hurting?" he asks, eyes hollow with fresh loss. "No," I answer honestly. "But you learn to carry it differently. And eventually, you'll find moments where the good memories outweigh the pain." I surprise myself with these words not because they aren't true, but because I'm beginning to believe them. My phone buzzes that evening with an email from Marissa. "I can't stop thinking about what happened. I should have been there for you and Lucas. I'm so sorry." I delete it without responding. Some bridges stay burned. The local newspaper runs a small piece about Veronica's postponed wedding. According to town gossip, her fiancé was disturbed by family revelations. My parents have been noticeably absent from their usual social functions. The gossip doesn't satisfy me the way I once thought it might. On a rainy Sunday, I write in my journal addressed to Lucas as always. "Today I laughed, really laughed, for the first time since you left." Hannah's little Jamie knocked over his juice and said something so perfectly you that I couldn't help it. I felt guilty immediately after. But then I remembered how you hated when people were sad. "So I'm trying, baby. I'm trying to find the sun like your flowers do." 1 year after Lucas's burial, I return to his grave. This time, I'm not alone. Hannah and Brian stand beside me. Eleanor and William Carter bring yellow roses. 3 families from the support group arrive with painted stones for his marker. The once bare grave blooms with flowers and memories. "Thank you all for coming," I say, my voice steady despite the tears. Lucas would have loved this. As we walk back to our cars, Hannah links her arm through mine. "You doing okay?" I look back at the colorful gathering around my son's resting place, then to the faces of those who stood by me when it mattered most. "Family isn't who shares your blood," I tell her. "It's who shares your heart when it's breaking and helps put it back together when you're ready."